So this is one of the most thin phones I've tried this year, and also one of the most resistant, according to Honor. So I feel uncomfortable dropping phones like that, but still, I've done it quite a few times and had no issues. The only thing you can see here on the top is a small bubble, but that's the plastic protector. The screen is completely intact. And yes, I've dropped it, Jesus, more than once. But let me stop doing that and tell you what this phone is actually about. So this is the latest phone by Honor. It's a brand that used to belong to Huawei a long time ago. Well, about 2-3 years ago, and now it's completely independent. Yes, it has Google Play services, it has full-blown Android, and it's pretty interesting. First of all, you got a Snapdragon 6 Gen 1. I never heard about that processor. It's brand new, and it's actually meant and built for this price range. You got a very beautiful display with 120 Hz. It's an AMOLED, and it also has a peak brightness of 4000 nits, which means you can see it perfectly in plain sunlight, no matter whether you're at the beach or in the desert. 4 nits is a lot, and it's going to give you a very good experience in direct sunlight. Not bad. There are different versions of this phone. You can find one that has maybe 8 gigs of RAM or one that has 12. The one we have here has 8 gigs of RAM. And now in 2025, I feel a lot more comfortable with phones having 12 gigs of RAM. It doesn't mean you can't use 8. What it means is that you're actually future-proofing if you have 12. Because if later Android updates and there's a newer version which needs more resources, you're completely safe and future-proofing yourself. But this one can actually go up to 16 gigs of RAM with RAM Turbo, that's what Honor calls it, and it's a digital RAM, it's not physical RAM. What you always want on a phone to be safe is the more physical RAM you get, the better. It doesn't mean you're necessarily going to use it. 8 gigs is okay in 2025, but 2026, we still don't know. That's why I always prefer a little bit more RAM, a little bit more wiggle room. The experience with the display is excellent. It's pretty fluid, it feels snappy, and it's pretty bright. So again, 4000 nits, 120 Hz of maximum refresh rate. In the rear, we have 2 cameras. We have a main sensor of 108 megapixels, which is okay. I'm not a fan of these huge sensors in phones because to take a picture most of the time, you got to be completely steady. You can't move your phone or else the picture is going to look a little bit blurry. So as long as you're completely fixed, using the max resolution will give you a good picture, especially if you're outside or in direct sunlight. If you're inside, well, the story's a little bit different. It does process with night vision or night mode or whatever you want to call it, but it doesn't give you that much of a good picture. It does feel a little bit noisy and starts losing quality the darker it gets. But for the price range, the 108 megapixel sensor is okay. But what's not okay, and I think should change in this phone, is the ultra wide. The ultra wide is only 5 megapixels. Why on earth is there an ultra wide in 2025 with 5 megapixels? The pictures look blurry, you can't really zoom them in, and they just simply look washed out. It's something that in 2025 should not exist. I mean, at least 20 megapixels. I know megapixels are not everything when you're taking pictures. Apple is a clear example of that, but not everybody invests in picture processing as much as they do. So if you're gonna have a very low megapixel camera, you have to invest a lot in your digital processing. And that's not the case with this device. You can tell it's a lower resolution sensor, and the ultra wide is simply a camera I barely consider usable. Now, video quality. You can film in 4K with this phone, but you can only do it up to 30 frames per second, which is kind of low again for 2025. We have seen phones that are even a little bit cheaper than this phone that can film in 4K and up to 60 frames per second. Xiaomi is one of those brands, but it's not the worst thing in the world, and you're gonna understand why at the end of this video. The front camera is also pretty mediocre, something that hasn't changed in a long time in this price range. And it's not only Honor, a lot of brands keep using a very low sensor like this one, which is 16 megapixels, and the pictures aren't really that good, don't have that much detail, and it's what you would expect for the price range, unfortunately. You can also film in 1080 up to 30 frames per second, so not the best experience photo-wise, not the best experience video-wise. It's just barely usable and simply okay in some scenarios. But where this phone shines is actually in performance and all the other usage. If you want to use it to scroll through social media, you want to watch movies, you want to watch any type of videos, play on it, you want to do everything on it except take photos or film video, you're going to have an exceptional experience for the price. It does feel like a premium phone. And it actually has a crazy battery life because it has one of the biggest batteries in mainstream brands, which is Honor, Oppo, and all those brands which have been around for quite a while. I'm not talking about these crazy Chinese brands that some of them even have 20,000 milliamp batteries. No, this thin factor has 6,600 milliamps, which is way bigger than most phones. And this will be probably more than enough for most people to get about 2 days of battery life at a regular usage. If you use it maybe not that much, you might even get more than 2 days, which is crazy. It also has a fast charge of about 66 watts, which is pretty okay. It's not the fastest charge, but you will charge 6,600 milliamps in about an hour, which is great. And besides, you're not going to be charging it that much compared to other phones because the battery life is simply way better than what you find on most of them. So who is this phone meant for? For people that don't take that many pictures, that really don't film that much, but want a great performance on the screen, want great battery life, want something that's pretty nice, it's pretty thin, and I like the finish on the back as well. It's pretty resistant because, yeah, you've seen, I'm going to do it one more time, I'm sorry. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah. Okay, so doesn't break and nothing actually happens to it with this crazy screen. I have no idea how they managed that. And also, you have a great battery life for about 2 days. So that's who this phone is actually meant for. If you want the best camera, want the best video, you might want to look for another option. That doesn't mean this is a bad option. Just take into account what it's offering. If you're interested in buying it, check my affiliate link down below in the description. And also, if you're new around here, don't forget to subscribe and drop a like because it helps out quite a bit. Maybe check out this video over here, which I think you might like.